Wednesday, November 14th, 2018, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So Billy is back. I picked him up yesterday after I made the video. He's back in business, the compliance officer. Some of you have said that he was being held hostage by the Venezuelan government. I can't go into further details, but Venezuela has got its gold back now, 14 tons, and they've actually given Monaco 64 a ton of that 14 tons that came back from the Bank of England. Of course, that's only a joke. It would be nice, of course, 1 ton of gold. But I'd like to say as well, even though it's a joke, what's happening in Venezuela is not a joke. There's a lot of people out there who are political prisoners, who are probably dying in prison. So in spite of what the Bank of England's doing to the sovereign country of Venezuela, there's still a lot of problems there as well. This morning, I want to talk about how it's important to fight, at least for yourself and your family. We can't, how can I say, fight for everyone out there. They need to do it on their own. They need to find out about it on their own. They need to wake up. But at least we can protect ourselves against the fiat money, central banking tyranny that we live under. We've lived under it for, I would say, 100 years, since World War I. Even though, we had Remembrance Day in the UK, and I understand that. But I think the biggest lesson from that war was that it took away so many of our freedoms, not only in the UK, but in Europe, in the US. In the US, not so much, but it led to a lot of loss of freedoms in the ensuing years. And I think a lot about 1933, when Americans lost, their wherewithal to protect themselves against the bankers, when President Roosevelt betrayed the American people and stole all their gold. So I want to talk a little bit about that today, how we can fight them. I know a lot of times it seems like a very lonely battle, but it's important that we do it for ourselves and our families, in my opinion. Unless you want, of course, to remain as a peon or a slave to the fiat money system and the bankers who run that system. It's 8:13 a.m. I'm going to look at what the markets are doing before I go into how we can protect ourselves and what we should do, in my opinion. That's all the stuff that I do. It's up to you, of course, to decide. So yesterday, stock markets continued lower. The NASDAQ actually finished unchanged. But the Dow finished down another 100 points, in addition to the 600 points that it lost on Monday. So it finished down 100 or 0.4%. The S&P outperformed a little bit. It finished down only 4 or 0.15%. And as I said, the NASDAQ was actually virtually unchanged yesterday, the NASDAQ composite. So this morning, spot gold right now is down slightly. It's at 1,270, down $1.38. The range has been 1,200 to 1,205. So gold still being kept down in terms of fiat price. Silver 13.98. The low has been 13.96, and the high 1407. So it's virtually unchanged here. The Dow is up 9 points, so virtually unchanged as well at 25,296. S&P is 2720, down about a point. NASDAQ 100 futures down 0.2% at 68.15. The pound, which overnight had rallied quite a bit on talks of another, Brexit deal, UK-EU Brexit deal. But this morning, I think things are still uncertain about Brexit, and that's why the pound's going to remain volatile. Bloomberg headline says Brexit in the balance, as May asks cabinet to back her deal. So she's made a deal with the EU. It's whether her cabinet will agree with it. So it's things are not really out of the woods for the pound, so to speak. Euro is down 11 pips or 0.1%, 112.80, and the dollar yen is unchanged, virtually at 113.90. Dollar also unchanged against the yuan, 694.82. Oil price yesterday got hammered like 6%. I mean, WTI crude is now 55.60. That's over $20 from the recent highs. Same goes for Brent. It's at 65.58. What I think is happening actually, because I saw a headline that John the Walrus Bolton, or the neocon advisor, a national security advisor to Donald Trump, said that they had no proof that Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi prince, was involved in the killing of Khashoggi, Jamal Khashoggi. And then I looked at crude and it was being hammered down, and I thought, Trump has been telling the Saudis, you should increase production, and they haven't been playing ball. And all of a sudden, on the day that John the Walrus Bolton comes out and says, MBS is not involved in this, we've got no proof, crude drops that much. It smells fishy to me. Could it be, and I have no proof, but could it be that the Americans said, you increase the oil production, we need to get the price down, and we come out and absolve you of this supposed, crime that you're suspected of committing? Well, it makes a lot of sense to me. Or it could also be a signal that the overall economic system, the economy is crashing. Does that mean gold and silver are not going to go higher? No, not at all, because you could have a deflationary collapse of paper assets and still real assets could still do well. Don't forget, the word deflation is used loosely nowadays. We haven't really had consumer price deflation. I think the last time was in the 1930s in the US. In the UK, I don't know when the last time it was either. But you can also have a deflationary collapse of the financial system, debt destruction, stock destruction, bond destruction, that kind of stuff. So that could also be part of the deal here. Italy, bond yields today are up again, up 10 basis points, 355. I think yesterday was the deadline for Italy to present a revised budget to the EU, and I don't think they did. So things are heating up. We're at 355, up 10 basis points. So Italy not out of the woods, and we need to keep an eye on that. US 10-year yield right now, 314, unchanged. So I've got my coffee, and the Fed mug, and of course you can get some Monaco 64 merchandise in the Monaco 64 store. That's all the way to do it is in the description. You can get Billy merchandise as well, and Billy's already gone to sleep, back to sleep. He got off the couch this morning when I woke him up, brought him down, and I was going to start the video. He'd gone back up to go to sleep. He's getting old. Anyway, how can we protect ourselves against this fiat money system? Well, I always think of it as a game. If some bullies in the neighborhood start a game, football game, a baseball game, out in the fields, and you go and play with them, and you notice that they don't play fair, and that they're bullies. The best thing to do a lot of times is just not to go and play their game. Find people that are nice, people that will, play the game, the games, but competitive, of course. I think it's great to be competitive, but fair, right? So that's the same thing with this fiat money system. And the reason why I think a lot of people don't realize they're being played for is because of the educational system. Most people are too worried or sometimes even distracted by all the games that they put on television. I notice sometimes people that I associate with, like they're talking about, oh, what happened last night to such and such team. Oh, he did this and that. And it goes right over my head because even though I used to follow, sports a lot when I was younger, I don't anymore. The only one I follow is because I like playing it is a bit of golf. But yeah, there are a lot of distractions out there, a lot of stuff going on, and people have no time really to study these things. And most people think that money and the monetary system is something that should be left to the so-called experts, that it's very complicated, that, and to some extent they do make it, the powers that be, they use terminology that makes people roll their eyes, and like say, forget it, quantitative easing, quantitative tightening, operation twist, all these things, financial stability board, and reserve requirements, and all that. But I'm here to tell you that it's very simple. Money is just the most marketable commodity, the most marketable commodity that allows people to indirectly exchange the value that they create, the service that they provide for other things that people create and service. And that's all it is. And it also is supposed to be able to maintain its value over a long period of time, so that if you create that extra value, you can store it. Yes, and it's got to be always there, and it's always got to act as a store of wealth, as a mode of exchange, and that has been found to be gold and silver over the millennium, and no one can deny that. And you might say, well, but we can't spend gold right now and silver. Of course, but that's been done by force, by legal oppression from, the central banking system, and the governments and the politicians have actually been compromised into doing this. So how do we fight them, even though the system is oppressive? Well, you try to stay away from their game as much as possible. And how do you do that? Well, you are playing that game if you hold any of their instruments. And by that I mean, their banknotes, dollar bills. If you hold it in their banks, the fiat money system, you're actually lending to them and letting them continue this, propagate this fiat money fraudulent parasitical system. So one way to do it, of course, nowadays you still need some of the fiat to exchange to survive. But I would say what I do is try to exchange as much as the spare fiat that I'm able to accumulate into physical, tangible goods, be they property, be they land, and monetarily, of course, it would be physical silver, like this 1964 half dollar, or a few gold coins. So that's how you do it. And to my UK viewers, if you are interested in doing that, I provide a promo code for goldinvestments.co.uk, arguably the oldest bullion dealer in London, a family-run business, and you get 0.5% discount if you use the promo code Monaco64. Anyone from around the world can go onto that as well, but it might not be cost effective. You need to find out. Yeah, so that's how you do it. You stay as much as you can out of their game. You also try to live within your means. I know that's hard. And what does that mean? Well, don't borrow. I know it's hard, but you need to live within your means, because every time you borrow, you are propagating the system. Because when you borrow, these people create money out of thin air. And you work to pay off that loan with interest. You work and you create real things and you do something real, while they just sit there and earn this interest, and they haven't done any work to create that paper or that loan. So the more you borrow, the more you spend, in their system, the more you leave in paper assets, the more you help them. So the way to do it, I'm not saying you need to go into the mountains and become a hermit, but try to avoid it as much as possible. When you buy gold and silver, the only way to buy gold and silver is physical. There's no such thing as ETFs. That's not real gold. Or, GLD. Gold mining stocks is completely different. But I think a lot of the mining executives, they're not really gold bugs. They don't really understand how the system has been manipulated. So you have to be careful who you put money with there. What about the glint card? Yeah, I think that's good. It's not physical. Well, it is physical. They hold it for you in your name in a private vault, insured in Switzerland. And you can actually spend it as currency. Not directly, of course, but they do the exchange right on the spot. So that's the other alternative. But nothing beats physical, and it's one of the ways to fight them. The price we shouldn't worry about. That's the other thing. They want the public to think that gold is just like another risky commodity. And that's why we get these booms and busts in the short term, and people get discouraged from having gold and silver. But over the long run, it protects you against the fiat money inflation. So it seems like Mr. Lenin was right about how the best way to destroy the bourgeoisie, as he said, was to debase the currency, or debauch the currency, as he said. And he said that not even 99% of the people ever realized that it was being done. And it's still being done today, 100 years after he said that. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on Steemit, DTube, and on Twitter. I wish you all a great day. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.